Marvel Entertainment has a wide range of interesting and strange characters, ranging from the notable ones like Iron Man and Black Widow to less notable like Fluff and Flatman. However strange, among their roster of thousands of characters are some of the most interesting and yet weird to ever exist. But also, it is one of the most diverse and inclusive cast of characters in comics. Hey, I'm Braxton Mayhew, and I'll be telling you how Marvel Entertainment has managed to keep up with the times by appealing to race and gender inclusion in their comics and films. So, our first step in this journey is to quickly define both Marvel Entertainment and race and gender representation. And for the sake of this video guide, race and gender representation will be defined as fair and equal representation of those who identify as other than Caucasian male. And, well, Marvel Entertainment, that's a whole nother story.
The year, 1939. The location, New York City.
Stanley Martin Lieber was at the ripe age of 17 years old, and after reading his fair share of DC Comics, his future competitor, he decided that he wanted to start his own comic series. So Lieber signed with and created characters for Pulp magazine publisher. But after World War II, superheroes had kind of, fell out of popularity with comic book readers. So around 1960, DC Comics revamped the superhero genre by releasing a whole new slew of comics, introducing the Golden Age, and these comics found new commercial success. So Marvel Comics survived through the downward spiral and made it to the Silver Age of comics, and then after that came the Bronze Age of comics. And with these eras came introductions of thousands of characters for Marvel's roster, which is now so expansive that it includes characters like Santa, Greek and Norse gods, Dracula, and the Kool-Aid Man. And the list goes on and on and on and on for over 8,000 characters. So, where does this leave us today? If you've seen any Marvel movies or TV shows since 2021, you can already answer this question. Even if you haven't, you've probably seen the marketing for the likes of Ms. Marvel or the She-Hulk series. It's very clear to any person with eyes and the Disney Plus subscription that Marvel, starting in 2020, had a push with female and non-white characters into the public eye. So the real question isn't do they exist, but why do they exist? Why are they here? Characters such as She-Hulk have existed since 1980 and Ms. Marvel since 2013. So why only in 2022 give them a series that would put them in the eyes of the public with the likes of Iron Man and Captain America? Characters such as the Invisible Woman have existed since the beginning of Marvel Comics, but a modernized version of the Fantastic Four movie was only just announced as of the recording of this video. So why now? What's changed? Why has Marvel had such a huge push? Well, dear listener, I'll answer your question with another question. Has there been a push in female and non-white characters in Marvel Entertainment? Or have those characters always been there and Marvel has just been making the push to get them more attention now? Female and non-white characters have always existed in Marvel, and in recent years Marvel Entertainment has been working to right past wrongs and give these characters more attention from the public. Here, I'll argue my point. Let's find our topic for discussion. Female and non-white Marvel characters. For the sake of keeping things short and sweet, I've chosen a few to focus on. Ms. Marvel Kamala Khan, the Invisible Woman Susan Storm, the X-Men as a group, and Black Panther King T'Challa. So with this information, let's move forward.
Okay.
In November of 1961, the Fantastic Four #1 was published by Stan Lee, and introduced in this comic were iconic characters such as Mr. Fantastic, the Human Torch, the Thing, and Susan Storm, the Invisible Woman. These characters would go on to be known as some of the most well-known superheroes in history. Stan Lee's original intention with this group of heroes was to birth a team that had more of a family-like bond, rather than a team bound by the need to save the world. To fit this family dynamic, Susan Storm served as the female lead, the Human Torch's older sister, and Mr. Fantastic's wife. Stan Lee did everything in his power to ensure that Susan would feel like a vital part of the team. Rather than making an easy move of making Susan Storm simply just a love interest of Mr. Fantastic, they decided to introduce the characters as equals, team members working together for the betterment of mankind. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby also ensured that Susan Storm was not just there because they needed a female character. They did everything they could to ensure that she was depicted as very important in the comics. Even when the readers of the comics doubted the importance of her place on the team, Stan Lee went out of his way to make an entire comic where Susan Storm, along with the rest of the team, addressed these accusations by pointing out all the important things that Susan had done for the team. This was the Fantastic Four number 11. Stan Lee and co-writer Jack Kirby went out of their way to write and draw an entire comic issue that just told off their fans for hating on Susan Storm. Instead of giving in to their readers and replacing the character with somebody who was more popular, they just doubled down and cemented Susan's place in the team. Marvel would only continue to introduce strong female characters as they grew, such as Captain Marvel Carol Danvers in 1977, She-Hulk in 1980, Miss Marvel in 2013. Well, let's talk about that last one briefly. Kamala Khan was introduced in Captain Marvel number 14. Kamala Khan is an American-born Pakistani Muslim girl living in Jersey City. Her main character conflict is between her desire to live a typical American teenage life while still remaining pride in her Muslim heritage. However, the actual deeper conflict the character poses is with the idea of a Muslim girl saving Americans in a post-9/11 America. Professor Dean Cooper Cunningham, Assistant Professor of International Relations in the Department of Political Science at the University of Copenhagen, wrote a piece that goes further into what Miss Marvel's character truly meant and the dichotomy of her Muslim American lifestyle. In his piece, he states, "The Muslim American dichotomy is particularly powerful because it structures what is and what is not American, is and is not normal." End quote. Despite the dichotomy of her characteristics and the possible controversy that a Muslim character poses in a post-9/11 America, Marvel Comics continued to push Kamala Khan as one of the most prominent characters in their comics, and would even make her the star of the 2020's Avengers video game, as well as produce and release a Miss Marvel show directly to Disney Plus in 2022. But gender representation isn't all Marvel Comics is known for. Stan Lee was one of the nicest individuals to ever live. So it's no surprise that with his kindness came the desire for social justice and peace. Stan Lee would often use his platform of popular comics to write or interject stories with plot lines or characters who represented inequality or mistreatment of minorities, with the hope to have these stories serve as cautionary tales for the readers against social injustice and inequality. The earliest and most obvious example being that of his World War II propaganda comics, such as Captain America 1, published in 1941. These comics featured the iconic hero Captain America facing and taking down Nazis and even Adolf Hitler directly. Stan Lee would do more things like this, such as his support of the civil rights movement with characters such as the Black Panther. During the rise of the civil rights movement, Lee and Kirby were seeking to address the lack of black characters in comics. Therefore, Black Panther was introduced in the Fantastic Four number 52 in 1966, where he lurked alongside the Fantastic Four, and 11 years later received his own solo comic series. Black Panther was the first superhero of African descent to appear in a mainstream published American comic. Black Panther paved the way for many more black heroes in Marvel Comics, such as Falcon in 1969, Luke Cage in 1972, Blade in 1973, Monica Rambeau in 1982, and many more. And Black Panther was introduced more than a decade before DC Comics would debut their first black hero, Black Lightning, in 1977. And even when Marvel didn't attack issues directly, they would choose to use metaphors to address social issues. September 1963, racial prejudice and fights for social justice are on the rise, and Stan Lee and Jack Kirby are on the obvious side of this conflict, the non-racist side. And they needed a way to spread positivity of social inclusivity to the world. And they realized they had the perfect medium, comic books. But they had an issue. The anti-black people they were trying to reach weren't going to read comics starring or even featuring colored people as heroes. So they needed a way to give these readers this message in a way they could easily digest and would, actually consider picking up. So they created and published the Uncanny X-Men #1. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. The name of the team, X-Men. Now, yes, this is one of those sexist male privileged moves that Marvel did in their early days. However, remember the whole right past wrongs part of my thesis from earlier? Well, the name X-Men is one of those past wrongs they've been trying to right. Due to the popularity of the name, it's been hard for them to shake. However, in the modern media, they have taken to referring to them as mutants. Given the name change from X-Men to mutants, I'll be referring to them as mutants for the remainder of this segment. The mutants are a team of people with mutations in their genes. Mutations they did not choose and were not given to them. They were born with this mutation, had no choice of their own. And due to these mutations, these mutants were viewed as criminal and dangerous to the rest of society. Have you caught on yet? A group of people who were born different from the majority of people and were discriminated against due to this uncontrollable difference in their genes. Yeah, the mutants of Marvel have long served as a metaphor for marginalized people. And the mutants served as the metaphor that Lee and Kirby needed. And racial issues aren't the only metaphor that mutants can be applied to. The mutant metaphor can acquire any lens from LGBTQIA+ perspectives to racial ones. And through this group of characters, Lee and Kirby were able to deliver a message to America. A message of wrongful discrimination against a minority group who were different from everyone else. No matter what it took, even if they had to create all new characters, Lee and Kirby found a way to tackle the racial issues plaguing our country. So, this brings us to the modern age, with the movies and stuff that people better know. Well, in the modern age of Marvel, anyone who watches can see an obvious increase of upfront and center roles of female and non-white characters compared to the first 3 phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which was everything from Iron Man in 2008 to Avengers Endgame in 2018. Any movies that came after that are in the more modern area that I'm referring to. In the modern film age of Marvel Entertainment, there has been an apparent push in female and non-white characters in these Marvel movies and shows. Characters such as Captain Marvel, Kamala Khan, She-Hulk, Black Widow, Okoye, Shuri, Jane Foster, the list can go on and on for a while. And that's just female characters. I haven't even mentioned non-white or LGBTQIA+ characters yet. Since 2018, there's been a huge apparent push in the use of these characters. I wonder why that is. Maybe it's a consequence of the Me Too movement. Okay, I'll be completely upfront. This is not an original idea on my part. I actually got it from a book written by Miriam, an author with a PhD in film studies with a focus on Marvel superheroes and comic book adaptations. She makes various excellent points in her book, Women in Marvel. That's what it's called. You can go check it out if you want to read it. One of the points that Kitten makes in her book is, and I quote, "In Hollywood, issues of women's representation and exploitation resurfaces at a consistent frequency, referring to the lack of opportunities presented to women filmmakers and the gender pay gap, and issues such as race and sexuality representation. These discussions peaked in late 2017 when sexual-based allegations were made against Hollywood film producer Harvey Weinstein, a story that was widely discussed in the media and online platforms, contributing to the formation of the Me Too movement on social media." Yeah, it's a long quote, but it explains the idea beautifully. The rise of the Me Too movement put into the public eye the issue that female employees were being mistreated and females in general were not being given the same opportunities as male. So Marvel, in an attempt to correct the issues, wrote more female characters into their cinematic universe to ensure they are being as inclusive as possible. There was no new push in female heroes. These characters have always existed. Even since the start of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in Iron Man 2 in 2010, Black Widow was introduced, played by Scarlett Johansson, until Scarlett Johansson's contract expired in 2018 when her character was killed off in the same movie as Iron Man himself. It's not that Marvel is pushing new female characters as a way of pulling in more money or looking better in the public eye. Marvel has always had these characters. They're simply trying to put more of a focus on them, and deservingly so, in order to show their agreement with the idea that females deserve to be given the same opportunities and can do the same things as males. Marvel has been known for adapting and changing with times in such manner for years. Marvel Entertainment is a hugely expansive industry. I didn't even begin to scratch the surface of this massive world they've built. I didn't even talk about the most powerful characters like Eternity, Unity, Lady Death, or the Scarlet Witch. All female characters, or some of the smartest characters like Riri Williams, Shuri, or Lunella Lafayette. All colored female characters. I didn't even mention that due to the multiverse, every male character has a female variant that is either just as strong or vastly stronger than them. I highly suggest that if you're interested in this topic, you grab a comic or, a Disney Plus subscription and you get into the wacky and wonderful world of Marvel. Marvel Entertainment is a company founded by a man who believes in opportunity, inclusivity, and positivity. And Marvel Entertainment as a company reflects those values. Through both their comics and movies, Stan Lee, rest in peace, Jack Kirby, and Kevin Feige, the executive producer of Marvel films created by Disney, and various other writers, directors, artists, and executives have managed to create a world that is not only inclusive, but goes out of its way to ensure that all groups are properly represented and included, as well as a world that is able to adapt and change the way they work and the stories they tell to better fit the social climate of the world. Marvel Entertainment is not a company that began a recent push of female and non-white characters to look good in the public eye. Marvel Entertainment is a company that has since conception been highly inclusive and positive, as well as highly adaptable to the times they are working in. Even in their various mistakes, Marvel has managed to pull up their pants and slap the world with the best serving of humor, tension, and cool heroes. And with just the right amount of political correctness and social awareness. Hats off to you, Marvel. And thanks for listening.